briefly on the performance-based schedule for providing new digital adoption services to Clevelanders. Digital C had the goal of providing services to 7,500 Clevelanders in 2024. They reported providing service to 7,622 individuals in Cleveland, exceeding that goal. On the performance-based schedule for new household subscriptions to broadband internet for 2024, their goal was to subscribe 3,500 new internet household subscribers. They've reported subscribing 2,802 new household subscribers. They fell short of that goal. There's a lot of successes in that 2,800, but it also clearly indicates a lot of challenges. I want to thank Councilman Casey for trying to work through what an appropriate response would be. The number wasn't met, and we can't provide the full funding that was anticipated for that year because our goals weren't met, our expectations weren't met. That said, 2,800 new internet subscribing households represents close to 7,000 people on average. We want to celebrate the wins, acknowledge the challenges, create a solution that works for all of us, including Digital C, the entity that we're investing in to provide service to our needy communities here in Cleveland, and move on and look to 2025. With that, I'll yield to the chair.
All right, so just going over 2024 numbers, their goal was 3,500. For a payment of 1.75 million, did they achieve that?
To the chair, no.
And then also, there's two different parts to this. There's the internet subscription, the household subscriptions, and then there's also the digital literacy portion. In year one, they were supposed to reach a goal of 7,500 for a payment of $2 million. Did they achieve that?
Yes.
All right. Before I get into my portion, I'm going to give members of the committee the opportunity to ask questions. Does anybody have any questions regarding 126, 2025?
I have lots of questions.
If you have lots of questions, then I usually reserve vice chair first. So, do you want to go first, Jenny?
No, I will yield to
okay.
another member.
All right, Councilman Harsh.
So, well, Chairman, I mean, I'm not sure how you want to conduct this, but I have so many questions, and I guess just the most important one at the top is, of the 2,802 reported new customers through the chair, how many of them are self-paying, and how many of them live in unique addresses?
Through the chair to the councilman, those are great questions. I don't have that data offhand. I would recommend we call Digital C up here if they want to provide those specifics.
You want to bring Digital C to the table?
They are here.
Right.
Digital C, if you guys want to make your way up to the table. Or, I mean, if one of you, all of you, it doesn't matter.
Come on.
Whoever wants to come to the table, or whoever would have the answers to any of the questions. Mr. Edmonds, did you hear the question? Go ahead. You got to turn it on. So as we learned yesterday, the mic is your friend. Use your outdoor voice. And it's not for us here at the table, but it's for the people watching at home.
Understood. So thank you for the question. So when it comes to our paying customers, it's about 40%. So 40% of our customers are self-paying. I can get you the specific number, though.
Could you please give, through the chair, Mr. Edmonds, could you give me the specific number?
I'll provide that.
That would be roughly 1,120.8
If I may,
self-pay.
through the chair, I believe it's these numbers here, right? Education subsidy, healthcare subsidy, other.
That's right.
Okay. Do you want to explain these numbers to the councilman?
Yeah. So we have a few numbers. So when we break it down, so households who previously did not have internet at all, 261. Households that were on the Affordable Connectivity Program, 2,541. Number of self-pay customers, 1,200. And number of customers on a subsidy, 1,500.
Did you say you wanted chair to CEO? Jason? Josh, sorry.
Mr. Edmonds.
Could you start over with the numbers again?
Absolutely. So the number of households that did not previously or did not currently have broadband internet, that's 261. The number of households that were previously on the Affordable Connectivity Program, 2,541 households. The number of self-pay customers, 1,271. And then the number of customers on a subsidy, 1,531.
Okay.
Councilman Harsh?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, when we were here last, we talked about the urgency of bringing new people in and not just transferring of people from the Affordable Connectivity Program. We said, I believe we said we would not count those folks. It sounds to me like you have 261 new customers.
Councilwoman Spencer?
And I want to thank and recognize our research staff. I did request a copy of the contract, and if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair, I believe that Affordable Connectivity Program customers are a metric that's counted towards the total, those ACP conversions. if
Mr.
you will.
Davis?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, yes, that's correct.
So we did accept ACP conversions.
Through the chair, yes, if they were on ACP prior to its exhaustion.
Okay.
But may I also have another point, since
Please.
this is a good discussion. So essentially, we're getting to our 2,800 by adding the former Affordable Connectivity Program customers with the new households. Is that an accurate statement through the chair?
The chair, that's correct.
And for further clarity, 1,200 of your current customers are self-paying, and 1,531 are on some kind of subsidy. Could you, through the chair, break down which subsidy those customers are on?
Through the chair, yes, I can. So from the education subsidy, 1,019.
Is that, I'm sorry, education subsidy,
Sorry,
CMSD?
yes, that's correct.
1,019?
That's correct. Healthcare subsidy, we have 370.
And through the chair, is that Metro Health Hospital?
That's correct.
And that was 370?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then we have other listed here, which is 142.
And through the chair, what would be an other? What would that be?
I believe the other is a combination. It could be like some Cleveland Clinic Foundation. I can get more detail on the other that's reported.
Okay, and so that's 1,531. Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, are we going to discuss then the financial payments to Digital C from some of those subsidized? I believe CMSD has a financial relationship to put their families on your Canopy product. Are we going to discuss that later, or are we going to discuss that now?
We'll discuss the financials in a little bit. We want to
Okay.
get all the technical stuff out of the way first.
So if we take 2,802 customers and we subtract 1,531 that are on a subsidy,
If I may, through the chair, there's also an additional universe of customers who are neither new internet users nor ACP folks. So if you or I subscribe to Digital C, we would not be included in this conversation.
And are your self-pay $18 a month?
That's correct.
Okay.
okay. So by my math, that means there's 1,271 remaining customers. 1,200 of them are self-pay, so I don't know who the other 71 are, but I just want to arrive at that number. I'm going to say 1,271 are not on a subsidy if you've got 2,802 currently.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I have more questions about this, but I will stop for now.
All right.
Take my time.
Are you on? You're on the list, so you want to go?
Yes, this is sure.
Councilwoman Spencer.
Well, I have, Mr. Chair, I have some questions that are not technical, so I would like to be on the list for the non-technical part of our discussion. That said, I wanted to clarify whether the numbers that we were just read now are a result of the audit that was performed. And so to clarify, was an audit performed? When was it completed? And are the numbers we just heard the result of that audit?
Davis.
Through the chair to the councilwoman. those numbers were reported at the end of Q4, or rather the first week of January, to reflect all of the 2024 subscribers. The audit was started shortly after we received those numbers. It's still ongoing. It's not complete yet. A lot of paperwork. And I'd be happy to talk more about that process as well. But so far, so good.
Okay, so those are self-reported numbers with the audit still in process?
That is
through the
correct.
chair. Okay.
And I'll add that per the contract, any payments would be contingent on a successful audit, regardless of numbers reported.
And on that point, Chairman,
Councilman Harsh?
through the chair to Mr. Davis, are you supervising the audit then?
Through the chair to the councilman, I'm not directly supervising it. My colleague, Ricardo Reynoso, has been leading this on behalf of the city.
Ricardo, would you like to come to the table just to answer? So if anybody has any audit questions, we're going to bring Ricardo to the table.
Sure.
And now will be the time, we'll just
Sure.
do the audit portion.
And to the chair, if I can, it is still ongoing, so I don't want to make any conclusions or
Correct.
But happy to talk about process.
Okay. Through the chair to Mr. Davis, it's my understanding when you when we were all fresh and new in our government experience here, you were heading up the process of drafting the RFP for the digital divide work that was then sent out to the larger community, correct?
To the chair, that's correct.
Okay. And then, Mr. Davis, you also then helped score those responses to the RFP.
Through the chair, I was part of that team, yes.
Okay. And then you're also part of the audit team as well then, through the chair.
Through the chair, I'm not doing any of the audit work. I'm just receiving the reports.
You're receiving the reports and supervising Mr. Reynoso in this capacity? Okay. Because, Mr. Chair, there is always a governance concern about drafting an RFP, scoring the RFP, and auditing the RFP. Typically, we want to keep those in separate houses. We want to make sure that different people are doing those. So I just want to, say that out loud because I think it's good governance to keep these duties separate.
Through the chair, and I totally agree. It's part of why I'm not engaged in the documentation part. We do have an internal audit division of our Department of Finance,
Okay.
who we have paid professionals who've been doing this for years.
So through the chair to Mr. Reynoso then, could you describe a little bit of the audit process so far and what you've learned and what you've had, what information you've had access to in order to confirm these numbers?
Knowing that the audit's not complete.
Sure.
Yes. Through the chair to the councilman, yes, Digital C has been made aware as of 2024, what we be requesting as part of the audit process in line with the contract with the city. They have been cooperating with us thoroughly throughout this process, and I'm sorry,
did you say poorly or thoroughly?
Thoroughly, excuse me.
Thoroughly, okay.
No, excellent. No, they have been wonderful partners throughout this. They have provided us everything we've requested to this point. We have a team of about 5 individuals who are conducting this audit, and it's a work in progress. We're getting there, and it's
Okay.
going very well.
So
thus
through
far.
the chair to Mr. Reynoso, when do you expect the audit to be complete?
Through the chair to the councilman, to be determined. I would say we're probably about halfway done. I think once we pretty much have most of the stuff we have requested, and it's just a matter of reviewing it, and we are doing our due diligence to ensure that it is properly reviewed, and we do it in a timely manner, but we are pretty confident it will happen within a couple weeks' time.
Okay.
All right, and on that, I think the administration, the council, and Digital C have all learned a lot within the last year, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. And I know per the legislation is that there's supposed to be quarterly reports given to the council, okay? Whether that's Digital C getting them to the administration getting them to us is usually the process. Now that Digital C knows what the city will be asking for, right, I like to run a very timely process with this. So going forward, it would be my desire that whatever it is that the city wants for the audit be provided by Digital C in a quarterly basis so that we don't have to go through this rush of trying to get things done, so that when we come back in January of 2026, the audit will be complete so that we can have everything done in January moving forward. And I know that this was a growing year Maybe you didn't know what the city would want, the city didn't know, what to ask for, et cetera. But now that everybody knows the process, I would hope that this audit could kind of be an ongoing process throughout the year, as opposed to, let's sit down the beginning of January, try to go over a whole year's worth of work, because we know that there's a lot of work in an audit, and then trying to rush it to get through. Whereas if we can continue this process throughout the year and do an audit on a quarterly basis, come January 2026, we're able to sit down and have the audit in front of us when we go through this process again. So I believe everybody can agree on that, and I do believe that the quarterly reports is in the legislation and the contract as well. So, I don't know if we bird dogged that as well as we should have this year, but going forward, we definitely, April 1st, we would expect, the January, February, and March of 2025 numbers so that we can keep an eye on this going throughout the whole year. Okay. Sure.
Mr. Chair, I actually think this discussion about quarterly reports is worth spending a few more minutes on, at least because it is referenced both in the legislation and in the contract, and I believe the purpose of today's legislation is to amend the contract. And their report, there's a form for the quarterly report that's Exhibit A1 in the previous legislation. So it looks like there was a very clear format that was not only required but included. So I do want to clarify through the chair to the administration, were these reports provided? Because I will add, the legislation specifically says, it's either the legislation or the contract that specifically states the quarterly reports shall be delivered to all members of council, and our clerk has no record of such delivery.
Mr. Davis?
Thank you through the chair to the councilperson. We've received, I can say I have received quarterly reports in the format that's right here. I believe that's the format and it's part of the contract. I believe I've been CC'd on receiving the same emails that were maybe including Councilman Casey, maybe not. I believe council staff, I want to say some of the policy staff, but maybe not. We clearly need to make sure, and I'll put this on digital, so you just make sure everybody gets the reports at the same time conclusively. But I have been receiving quarterly reports, so that's
Okay,
something.
well, council has not, so
Yep.
that's just, that's an important point. And I would just say that if this format that's in the prior legislation needs to be modified or is not inclusive of what the audit is reporting, as Chairman Casey pointed out, we should just cross-check to make sure that the reporting is actually the information that council needs.
And thank you for providing the information to the administration, but to the administration, you need to make sure that those reports get over to council staff.
to the clerk. Will do.
Mr. Chair, may I resume my questioning with Mr. Reynoso?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Reynoso, the portion of the audit that is done, does that include a completion of either the education outreach component or the connectivity component, or both in a halfway state?
Through the chair to the councilman, they includes both, and they are both at a halfway point.
Okay. Mr. Chair, given that Councilwoman Spencer correctly points out that we did clarify this on the front end, I think it's very premature for us to have a conversation about any payments based on any work done. I have pages of quotes from everybody on the other side of the table saying that this was absolute. We will be paying for outcomes, and we will make sure that the residents are reached. We're paying for results, and we're paying only after results are demonstrated. No dollars go out until results are provided, and that's the end result. There's no money going out the door until we are provided results. It's as simple as that. We do not have results. I think this is a premature conversation.
Are you done?
Mr. Chair, they have not demonstrated that they've complied with the terms of the agreement. I think that modifying it right now is absolutely inappropriate. And I think that we do not have the information necessary to make any decisions on this contract right now. I'll stop, yes.
All right. Anybody else? Councilwoman Spencer, yes, you're up.
You know, it's interesting, Mr. Chair, the contract seems to have anticipated the possibility of overperformance. Overperformance is clearly defined, that in the event of overperformance, what would occur. It's really interesting. I think we were all very much optimists. And let me actually backtrack for a moment. I would like to thank you, Mr. Chair, for having the foresight. I think everyone knows by now, but for the viewing public, Chairman Casey has spent, at this point, countless hours on this and was especially thoughtful around a year ago at this time in finalizing the contract and making sure that that the performance metrics were broken out after 4 years. And we didn't wait to the end of a 4-year period to evaluate the whole thing. I think ultimately we are in a much better position than we might have been, and we're having much more productive discussion and shared understanding as a result of those efforts. So I want to thank you yet again for your clarity with that and providing the leadership so we could have this discussion we're having today. But I note that it's very interesting that contract very optimistically references what happens with overperformance, but the contract doesn't provide guidance of what to do in the case of underperformance. And that's why we are in this detailed discussion today, because we did not fully meet, the metrics were not fully met, and the contract does not provide explicit guidance of then what to do. So I just wanted to provide that framing because it's been helpful for me in contemplating moving forward with this legislation today. So I do want to, I know that we're looking at some amendments to the ordinance, and I also do want to just state for my part, I would like to see some payment go to Digital C upon successful completion of the audit and a clean audit, because we all want what we want, which is the ultimate outcome of 23,500 households being connected, okay? So I know what further discussion is coming about the exact number that the committee may choose to vote on, but I do have a question through the chair to Mr. Edmonds and team. So out of the 3,500 that was the goal for this year, we're at 2,802. Even though in this year, 2025, the metric is 4,700 new households. To really catch up, we'd have to hit 6,300. In other words, to make up for the shortfall of last year plus the goal for this year, right? So what I don't want is for everyone to say, oh, well, we missed the metrics. We're just going to hit 4,700. We're not going to try to catch up. So I would like to, ask and reassert, are we still trying to catch up and meet this year's metrics? I hope so. And then B, how would we meet 6,300 households this year to bring ourselves up to date, if we want to catch up from last year and meet this year's metrics? Through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, one, thank you for the framing. I would say that this year, per the contract, we know that year one, we don't get the 3,500. It goes to year two. So we don't, part of the overperformance clause is that, let's say that we came in at 3,800. It automatically next year is 4,700. Right. So every single year, it's somewhat of a clean slate. That being said, the target this year is 4,700, but for us, we're looking at those households that desperately do need to be connected from last year, that we didn't connect, that we're not losing sight of that goal either. We know the immediate one that corresponds to the contractual payment is 4,700. That's what we have to hit, but we're not just doing this for the contract either. And so as we have other households that we know need that connection, there is a priority to essentially catch up as well. But we do know per the contract that every year we go back to zero and we had to hit that number that increases every year as well.
Thank you. And I think my math was wrong, just to catch myself. Sorry. There were a lot of numbers flying around this morning. So to catch up, it would be 700 households that we didn't hit, plus the 4,700.
That's correct.
So even though Digital C is, so 5,400, Digital C is obligated per the contract to do 4,700, we all agree we'd like to catch up and keep that momentum.
Absolutely.
And exceed. So what I'm hoping, well, I won't be here a year from now, but I'll be here in spirit. What I'm hoping a year from now that this committee, I'll come as a guest, contemplates is that we're seeing 5,400 new households or more. But so that's another question I had, really looking at this contract and and understanding that underperformance wasn't clearly contemplated in the contract. So this question is through the chair to the administration. Ultimately, if Digital C does not, at the end of the 4 years, reach the 23,500 households, is there any consequence? Meaning, the vision we all set forth, the goal we all set forth was 23,500 households. If there are shortfalls year over year, we know there won't be, but if there were, I mean, is there contractually or otherwise any repercussion for not hitting the 23,500?
Mr. Davis?
Through the chair to the council person, it's from a payment perspective, the payments are just based on an annual, Jan 1 to December 31st perspective. There's an argument that there would be an overall breach. We could get into some of the legalese on that, but we weren't contemplating a specific penalty for that.
I would say the penalties are going to come on a yearly basis if they don't hit those goals.
Exactly.
Okay. I will hold my questions for now then at that, Mr. Chair, until a little bit later in the discussion. Thank you.
Any other council member? Mike? No, nothing? Great. Okay. All right. I believe we have some amendments that need to be.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I would suggest that we hold this discussion until the audit is complete. We're having a discussion about financial payments for work that was guaranteed to be done when we haven't completed the audit to know whether or not the work was done or what percentage of it was actually done, I think is premature. I think we should just hold the peace until we get the audit back.
How long will it take the audit to get done?
Through the chair to the councilman, we are on track, as I mentioned before. I believe in a couple of weeks we should be complete. We could be done even sooner. We're moving very, very fast.
So in my world, a couple is 2,
Yes.
and we're into budget season then.
I understand, but Mr. Chairman, as Councilwoman Spencer pointed out, this was all put into the contract on the front end. This was on them to comply and perform, and they assured us over and over and over again that they would, they could, and they had every intention to, and yet they haven't. This is not on us, this is on them. And frankly, Mr. Chairman, if this ends up getting pushed past budget because of our other obligations to the people of Cleveland, that is also on them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Through the chair.
Go ahead.
This would go, if this committee passes this legislation today, after any amendments, it would go to Finance Committee. Is that accurate, Mr. Chair?
Correct.
Through the chair, is there any chance that this audit would be completed prior to this Monday Finance Committee? Through the chair.
To the councilwoman, no. Not by Monday.
So I would offer that one option would be to, and I haven't looked where to add language yet, but that something about this would move forward subject to a clean audit, and we would, in other words, I don't know if there's a way to add that language to the legislation, that the actual payment would not be dispersed
But-
until the audit came back.
Mr. Chair, to the council lady's point, the amendment is to specify a dollar amount, which we
Correct.
cannot do until we know what work was actually completed. And right now, we do not know what work on this contract was actually completed.
I think we're being asked to accept the numbers that were provided.
I think we're being
Correct,
asked to
yeah.
project in good faith, and I have no reason for engaging in that relationship.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Councilman Bishop?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this exercise right here, we're doing this for Clevelanders, and we're doing this for the sake of our neighborhoods being connected. I think that if you fall short a couple hundred subscribers, or if you fail to connect a few hundred folks, I still think the partnership between the city and Digital C is such that we need to be patient, we need to be diligent, but we also need to give them room to grow. And I think this is a very early stage in this process. And I think if we stymie this relationship and their growth, I think we can, it may be detrimental down the road. Mr. Chairman, I ask for grace. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Grace.
What did you ask for?
So, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to support Digital C financially. I think we need to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do. But we also, I think, trying to, I think not supporting them 100%, I think it would be a mistake. I think this is a very important project for Clevelanders, not just in my neighborhood, but all neighborhoods. What I'm saying is I think we need to work with Digital C and give them the benefit of the doubt. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, is there a way, and I would maybe defer to our attorney on this, but is there a way to have language that we agree to a number in this legislation, we amend the legislation, but the funds shall not be dispersed until a successful and clean audit is returned? I don't know if that would,
I don't know where you.
that may or may not bring us back to the table.
Councilman, I
again.
think the fundamental conflict there is that the payment is supposed to be for services provided. The audit determines what services were provided. We do not have a completed audit, so we do not know what services were provided. Therefore, we cannot determine the payment amount.
The payment, it's an interesting debate because the payment amount is also fluid because the contract did not stipulate the measuring stick we would use in the case of a shortfall.
Oh, but we did, Council Lady. We agreed to 3,500 new customers. We agreed to 7,500 or whatever outreach. We had the metrics ahead of time with quarterly reporting in place.
Right.
That was not done. The metrics were not achieved. We have not come to the conclusion of what actual metrics were accomplished. That's why I'm saying payment can't be made right now.
I think it's worth playing out the remainder of the discussion because I know, Chairman Casey, I'll defer to you, but I know that you've been doing a lot of thought work around what the appropriate payment amount should be. And I do tend to, I do support Councilman Bishop's statement in the sense of we need them to continue this work. There is no circumstance under which I think any of us would agree that the work should slow or, you know, that we all are in this together and we need this work to continue. I think it is worth continuing the discussion around the specific number that could be added to the legislation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ricardo, are you, in seeing your preliminary numbers, are you confident that the numbers that Digital C has presented to us will be relatively close to what the audit, just in the preliminary?
Through the chair to the committee, yes, I am confident.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Chair, I just want to, agree with my colleague, Councilman Bishop, and also Councilwoman Spencer, because some of the work has been done, and yes, they did fall short to a minimum, but the customers that did get the work done are pleased more so than not. They've done more customers than they didn't get to their goal. However, we understand about the metric of the contract, but to give them grace, as Councilman Bishop stated, we provided them the contract, and yes, sometimes people don't reach 100% goal, as in other areas too, but as I spoke to you earlier, Councilman Chair KZ, in another conversation, it was kind of, you explained to me thoroughly about the difference as well. So I will also would like to move forward with what we already have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right. I believe we need some amendments. If anybody would like to proffer an amendment or two, or three.
I would, Mr. Chair. I would like to, though, first of all, clarify that right now, ordinance 126-2025 says by Councilmember Casey. Do we need to officially amend it in order to also have it state, as it should, by departmental request, and Council President Griffin's name should be on the piece? Maybe that's a question for,
Is that an amendment, Madam Clerk, or is that just, needs to just be adjusted going forward? Okay. Okay. So we have an amendment for the legislation to read, to add Council Member, or Council President Griffin, and by departmental request, correct?
correct?
Is there a second? Second, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so that's
And
one.
opposed, I'm voting against it, Chairman.
Okay. So we have,
That's one amendment. Mr. Chair, I would like to proffer an additional amendment. In Section 1, Line 5, before 2, strike "and."
all right, is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, or nay.
Passes. Is there another amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In Section 1, Line 6, after "made," insert 3. All further payments to Digital C shall also be conditioned upon receiving prior legislative approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Passes. All right, now we'll go into the financial aspect of this. There's been a lot of discussion around the payment. We know that there was, sorry, let me pull it up. There was $1.75 million on the line had Digital C achieved their goals. There was also $2 million on the line if you'd achieved your digital literacy goals. Both the administration, myself, and most members of council believe that you guys did achieve the digital literacy portion of the contract. However, you did not achieve your household. So at this point, we can go into how we came up with the numbers, but we do believe that the number will be 740,000 of the 1.75 is what has been discussed, agreed upon, and that's what we're going to put in the legislation. So there'll have to be another amendment. Section 1, line 4, 700, is it 740? That's what you agreed with. Huh? Yeah, 760, I'm sorry. Came to 760,000.
Mr. Chair, I would like to proffer an amendment in Section 1, Line 4, after "shall be paid," the dollar amount of $760,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I do not dispute the dollar amount. I'm going to vote against the,
Right.
the
Are
ordinance.
you opposed to the amendment?
I'm opposed to the ordinance.
Are you opposed to the amendment? We're discussing an amendment.
Correct. We're discussing the amendment with the dollar amount in the ordinance. We will then have a vote on the ordinance itself, correct?
Right, but right now, we're talking about an amendment. We're having a discussion on the
Right,
amendment.
I'm not disputing the amendment to
Okay.
this ordinance right now.
Okay, so end of discussion. So all in favor of the 760, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The ayes have it. All right. If anybody wants to know how we came up with the 760,000, let me explain real quick. So Digital C said that they came up with 2,800 customers. There was a lot of internal discussion on whether CMSD should be included in those numbers because You've already been paid for the installation of them through a whole nother program, as well as you're offering a different service to the CMSD students as you are opposed to anybody who just signs up at the regular canopy. So what we did was, if you would have reached your goal of $3,500, you would have been paid $500 per install. So what we did was we subtracted the 900 customers from CMSD, and then we're paying you $400 per install, and that's how we came up with the $760,000. All right, any other questions? Nope.
I'll make one more statement, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I do want to echo Councilwoman Spencer's comments earlier. You did a very, very good job in drafting this ordinance, and I thought this ordinance was extremely well done the first time. And I know you put a tremendous amount of work into this. It's a performance-based contract. The reason for my no votes is I don't think we needed to amend it. I think it was fine the way it was written. I think you did your work on the front end, and that's what brings us here today, where I think that our task is to force compliance with the previous existing ordinance. And that's why I'm voting against the amendments, because I think you did a very good job on this on the front end. So I will be voting no on 126, 2025, because I think the original ordinance was the one that we should be enforcing.
Thank you. Councilman Polensek?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I do want to thank you for your due diligence on this whole project of Digital C, and I also want to thank the people who've been at the table. We had made a request at the last committee. We had asked for not only ward numbers, but we had asked for to supply us, quote unquote, what streets you had been operating on. To my knowledge, we had not received that. Does someone tell me why we didn't receive that?
Mr. Edmonds?
Through the chair of the council, we did provide that.
The actual streets? Because
Yeah.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah,
I've got the numbers per ward, but I didn't, because I wanted to see what areas that you actually had completed or you were working on. So that's not on the screen, is it?
It's not on the
No,
tablet.
It's
no.
not on the tablet?
Staff
Did you receive that?
staff received it.
Because, okay, I'll make that request again, because I have not seen that. I want to see the individual street breakdowns of where you are presently operating, not only in my own ward, but across the entire city of Cleveland. Because again, I'm trying to market this, I'm trying to, because there's still, I got to tell you, there's still confusion out there. You know, some people are still caught up in this thing, as I'm finding out, that if it seems too good to be true, they think it is not true. And they don't understand how you can get internet that cheap. And it's a reliable service. So I hear that. So I want to make sure, because we spent a great deal of time at this table, and I want to promote, and I continue to promote the program, as I have in my new newsletter, but I want to make sure that our citizens are being served well. And so that's why I appreciate the chairman and all members of the committee doing their due diligence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Councilman Polensek, we just had it resent to you. So
Okay.
it's in your inbox.
Thank you.
So you have that information. Anybody else? All right, to Digital C. You guys have put us in a very awkward situation with not being able to achieve your goals. And part of me agrees with Councilman Harsh, but part of me also says we're in a 4-year contract, and if we hold you up, the only people that are going to suffer are our residents, and we're here for our residents. And please keep that in mind, that as an organization, that you're dealing with the council and the administration, we understand you have your goals to meet, and you should meet those going forward. But this is the people's money. And you put us in a situation to either say yes, no, or maybe. And we chose maybe. But going forward, I can't see us doing this again. If you cannot hit your goals, you need to let us know so that we can move on and come up with a different way of doing this. This is what the citizens of the city of Cleveland wanted. This is what the council's provided. We didn't choose you. The administration chose you. So you need to work closer with the administration, because moving forward, this was not an easy piece to move forward. And you put us in a very awkward situation to be able to give you anything. But we also believe that we need you to succeed. You have to do this. It's what's best for the city of Cleveland. Again, we didn't write the RFP. We didn't choose you. It's our job to oversee the dollars, right? This is really, I can honestly say this, and maybe Councilwoman Spencer won't be here next year, but maybe I will, right? I'm going to take the side of Harsh next year, okay? This is the first year. I understand you weren't built out, but per your other contracts, by June 30th, this whole city should be able to receive Digital C at $18 a month. So there's absolutely, positively, no excuse from this point forward. We're going to bend a little for the first year, and unlike other things, if you don't believe me, don't hit your goal, because there won't even be a discussion next year. You're legally obligated under the contract for the first year because you're new, because you had to build out. We understand that there was hiccups along the way, but moving forward, there's absolutely no excuse whatsoever. So if you want your 2.35 million in next year for 2025, I highly suggest you hit that number of 4,700 and have an audit to this council by the second week in January next year, because it's the same process. You will come to us the first meeting in January to present your numbers, and we will go over what we need to go over. And in 2 weeks after that, the third or fourth week in January of next year, it's either you've did it or you haven't done it. I can't be any more clear than that. And I will not bend for next year because there are no excuses. I understand what you went through this year. Almost a tiny bit sympathetic, okay? But you still signed a contract and you still had goals to meet. This was I believe this is how most contracts with the city of Cleveland should be like, because I don't think that we as a council or the administration do these performance-based contracts enough. And I'm not just talking Digital C, I'm talking across the board. Too many times we just hand money out and then we never hear a result. But this one, we're going to hold you to your results, to the results that you guys said you would do. So make no mistake about it, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 representatives of Digital C. I know that I haven't been the easiest person to work with this process, okay? But I have a fiducial obligation to the residents of the city of Cleveland. And I personally think that we are doing the residents of the city of Cleveland good by giving you something to allow you to continue on. Because do not forget the fact that you're still getting your $2 million. So of the $3.75 million that you were supposed to receive, you're getting 2.76. Okay, so it's not like we're totally cutting you off at the knees, but make no mistake about it, this will not, under any circumstances, happen again. As long as I'm sitting on council, maybe I'm here, maybe I'm not, we don't know, but it will not go forward. So I highly suggest that you guys do everything you can to make sure, and we don't want to hear next year about staffing problems. We don't want to hear about tornadoes. We don't want to hear about outside entities that affect you. Figure it out before you come here. So I don't know how clear I could be, but that's where this council is going to stand moving forward. So the first year, I think we all learned a lot. But the numbers are going to be what the numbers are moving forward. And we're only giving you that $760,000 because I feel that you need something to continue to move forward. But everything else is going to be on you guys. And we won't be the bad guys because you've been told. And to the administration, you chose them, right? This is on you guys as well. It's just our job to oversee it. But you guys chose Digital C, so if you want to take the hit for either them succeeding or not succeeding, that's on you, but under no circumstances is it supposed to come back to the council. We're just doing what we need to do and provide the fiduciary oversight.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
My question is this to you and then to Mr. Davis. When you mentioned about the council oversight, the charter is very clear what our roles are. We don't administer.
Right.
We do not administer. We pass an annual budget, and we work on legislation, and we implement legislation. My question is since this is the pick of the administration, and we all know that here at the table, is the administration communicating to you what the problem has been? Because I think that's critical. We all know there are issues. We all know there are challenges, regardless of what department, what division. But I'm a firm believer in communication, in keeping the council apprised as to what the problems are, as to what the difficulties are. And so I need to hear from you. Are you getting that? Are you getting that type of briefing? Are you being kept apprised as chairman of this critical committee as to what has been the issues, the troubles, the obstacles?
So, Councilman Polensek, I can say that I know what I've been told.
Okay.
Right? And the one thing that I don't like are excuses, right? You can either get it done or you can't get it done.
Yes.
So I think the administration and we'll just be honest, myself, Austin Davis, and Josh Edmonds sat down last Saturday for almost 3 hours, whatever it was,
Okay.
with a very heart-to-heart talk about this and moving forward and what the council and the administration expect of Digital C. I believe we're going to be on a better page moving forward.
Okay.
And we're definitely expecting those quarterly reports because, Mr. Edmonds, as you know, this council has said 1,000,000 times, we are here to help you become successful, right? Whatever you need from us, and I've told you this 1,000 times, all you have to do is pick up the phone and we'll figure it out, right? One way or another, we need you to be successful for our residents. An $18 a month internet is unheard of, right? And if you can provide that, the only people that benefit from this are our residents. And that's who we're working for. But I definitely expect to be better informed on the numbers on a quarterly basis moving forward. And I'm sitting here, and my colleagues are sitting here, and we're looking you right in the eye. If you need help, anyway, getting the word out, door hangers, meetings, whatever you need, all you have to do is pick up the phone, and the council's always here to help. So put that in the back of your mind. When you guys are having a board meeting, one of your questions should be, how do we reach out to Cleveland City Council to help us succeed this month?
Well, and I'm going to say this again for the viewing public, because it's important for the people who are watching this. We pass contracts, we pass legislation all the time, but we don't pass legislation all the time for $20 million.
Very true.
Okay, that's the difference here. This was a heavy lift. This was a lot of money, and we know how critical the ARPA funds were. And we have a whole lot of things that we could have spent ARPA funds on. But at the end of the day, we felt that we needed to provide digital access to our constituents. That was a given, because Cleveland has been rated as one of the poorest cities as it pertains to digital access for our constituents, and still remains that as we sit here today. So this was a heavy lift. And then when you add in the state's contribution, which was how much?
10 million.
10 million. Mandel put in how much?
20 million.
20 million. You know what? That is, in my neighborhood, they would say that's a lot of loot, okay? That's a lot of loot right there. And we expect delivery. We expect delivery. Because what I've learned at this table, it's like basic physics. For every action, there's a reaction. And if we don't get the action, then there's a reaction, and the reaction might not be what you like. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I believe this was the second largest ARPA allocation, correct? The
Yes.
second largest.
Yes.
50 million went into housing or
Yeah.
something.
To
Jobs,
Yeah,
job
yeah,
create,
yeah.
right. You guys got the second biggest chunk, right, I know. We've been joined by Council President Blaine Griffin. Blaine, did you want to weigh in?
Sure, I've been watching a lot of this. I apologize, I've been in the car, but I've been watching this hearing intently. Great questions. I'm glad that everybody is really tuned into this. I think everybody has some great points. I think that the dean just actually, articulated what I was going to tell everybody. There's a lot of partners involved with this. The state, philanthropic, others, and I know a lot of you may not have been involved with this, but the Digital Equity Coalition has been a very big partner that I've been really involved with for probably the last 4 to 5 years as well. And we chose Digital C for a few reasons. We chose Digital C because we were concerned that some of the other partners that were trying to bid for this had a corporate model that as soon as some of the government money that was put forth to do this was gone, that they would jack up prices. That there would be some of these major corporations that basically would do that. Now, they claim that they wouldn't do that, but as we've seen in the first week of this administration, there's a lot of unpredictability. And, if those corporate entities felt that they could have jacked up prices, then we would have had a bunch of people that would have still been disconnected, and they would have made their money by then. I heard what Councilman Bishop said earlier, and I'm asking the same thing. I think Councilman Casey, who I really want to commend, really worked hard to hold Digital C accountable, but not try to with no pun intended, just undermine or kill the effort to get digital equity in the city of Cleveland. So I want to commend him on that. And when chairs do that kind of work, we really need to make sure that we understand that the chairs are advocating on all of our behalf. And, I tell everyone you have a right to vote how you want to, but I do want to admire what Councilman Casey has done. And Councilman Bishop said something that I'm going to ask the same thing. This group has to go through some growing pains. Yes, we have to hold them accountable. Yes, we have to make sure that the things that they say they're going to do, that they actually do. But we all know that there's growing pains where you have a massive network that you're trying to jumpstart and trying to make happen. So what I'd ask everybody to do is that there's the audit. I do agree, and I like what Councilman Casey say, politicians are not administrators. We are like, our 2 days, our small amount of times is a couple of weeks. We really want to see that audit because I will tell you, we get questioned a lot. Councilman Harsh is not wrong. I went to the grocery store this weekend, and there was no shortage of people that came up to me to say, hey, this Digital C thing doesn't look good. And we have to answer to the public when that happens. So understand when we're pushing you, it's not personal. It's that we're in charge of trying to make sure that we're the public watchdog. But at the same time, I am asking that I think that Councilman Casey worked a heck of a good deal. There's still some, things that we have to work through. But I would tell you that, there are some people that are not happy with the deal that we put in place. And we all know in these positions, you oftentimes don't make anybody happy. But I think Councilman Casey struck a very good deal. He's kept me abreast of it all the way. We talked again about it this morning. And I think it's fair. The question that I have, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, is will they or could they, or is this money gone permanently, or will they be able to recoup money on the back end, because that would determine if and how we have to reallocate dollars if they happen to try to recoup at the end. Is that something that we've discussed, or is that something that we still have to figure out to Mr. Davis, through the chair?
Through the chair to the council president, thank you for those comments. That has not been discussed at length. I would defer to this council for their financial.
Councilman Casey does a great job negotiating.
Yes.
I'll defer to his leadership on this, but that's something that I do want to make sure that we clarify, because I do agree. I think you guys see by now, you see I watch this stuff. I do agree with Councilwoman Spencer that we need to make sure that we are very intentional with the contract so that we understand clearly what not only the punitive side is, but also what is the incentive side, that if they do get on track and then they do take off and then then there's an opportunity to recoup, then that's something that I think we need to clarify, if that's going to happen or not. But once again, with guidance from our chair, I'll work through that, okay? And only thing that I could say is, you know, a lot is riding on this. A lot is riding on this. History is watching all of us on this one. This is a very big allocation of dollars. This is a very big bet that the city of Cleveland has put on Digital C and other partners. And I want everybody to consider that. And speaking of those other partners, are any of those other partners considering clawing back or not providing any of the money that they have committed? Or are they all still in? Because I know a couple of them with the philanthropic groups, they don't have these kind of parameters. But has anybody else, the state or anybody else, threatened or jeopardized or any other dollars in jeopardy because of not meeting performance metrics?
Through the chair to the council president, no.
So the only contract that you have that is performance-based is the Cleveland contract.
The state contract is also performance-based, but that's a coverage one, so it's not subject to installs, it's not subject to training. Cleveland is the only one that's set up this way.
Well, that should give the public confidence that one of the things that this council did is set up parameters and rules to make sure that we are protecting the taxpayer dollars. So, you know, we have a more rigid process, but a lot of these folks, quite frankly, advocated to me for us not to have these kind of performance-based metrics. And I pushed back and relied on Councilman Casey to make sure, because we want to protect the taxpayers, to have performance-based contracts. So remember, we all have partners at this, and we want to make sure that those partners don't look at us the wrong way, because let's remember, they don't only just invest in this. I can tell you, Mandel Foundation alone has no shortage of millions of dollars that they're investing throughout Cleveland, probably to the tune of 100 or more, for different type of efforts. And the state as well. So keep in mind that sometimes when people see if we're going to be good partners in a situation like this, then they will also consider if they're going to be good partners with other things that we need support for in out here. So once again, kudos to Councilman Casey. I think he put together a fair deal, and I think that at the end of the day, we do need to clarify whether that money is going to just be gone, or if they have an opportunity to recoup it at the end. I would like to know that. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Councilwoman Spencer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Council President. The word watchdog was used, and while that's true, I also want to restate for the record that we are fabulous collaborators. Please help us unleash the power of our networks. Many of us have monthly ward meetings. I believe I can speak for any of us who hold those, that you would be welcome to attend. I hope we can, I would like to ask a question through the chair. We've been waiting for, and Councilman Polenzek referenced it, more marketing materials, newsletter content that we can put in our newsletters to make sure we're, one of the questions I got from residents is this for real, right? So we want to help debunk those myths. We want to help get the word out. So one question through the chair is, from whom would we be receiving that content, and when could we expect it? Through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilwoman. So Valerie Jerome, she's our chief of marketing and communications. And so I know that we've already sent examples, I believe on the 15th, but we will continue to send as we develop. The point on relationships is not missed on me. We have to do a better job of working with you all directly. You said something that corresponds nicely with us too, which is unleashing the power of your networks. This is all about networks. On a real network that we're building, but also the networks that you all have too, and that we do want to take full advantage of those networks and do something collaborative, do something much more collaboratively with you all this year than we did last year. That 20% short of our goal, we understand that a lot of that comes down to collaboration. That had we collaborated, do we get those numbers? But we're going to find out this year, absolutely.
All right,
Thank you, Mr.
I'll leave
Chair.
you guys. I'll leave you with this. Please don't put us in this situation come next year, because next year we won't be worrying about your other funding, because you'd have had 2 years to get it right. So please rely on us. Let us help you achieve your goals. Everybody's here to make sure you're successful. That's what we want to do, because when you're successful, our residents are better taken care of. So with that being said, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll on 126-2025 as amended?
Casey?
Yes.
Spencer?
Yes.
Bishop? Yes. Gray? Yes. Harsh?
No.
Kelly? Valencia?
Yes.
5 yeas, 1 nay.
All right, with that being said, 126-2025 stands approved. At this time, that concludes the Utilities Committee. We'll convene at the call of the chair. Thank you.